Are we rolling?
We're live.
We are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Coach T and Damon B podcast, episode 3. Absolutely. We have a special guest in the house today. As you may see to your, I don't know if it's right or left.
To the left.
To the left. That is Professor Tim Credeur, Louisiana MMA legend, I would call him.
Absolutely. So we definitely want to thank Coach Tim for joining us today, Coach. We appreciate it. Coach Tim is very, very busy, a very, very busy guy, and him taking time out of his day to come and do this for us definitely means a lot. So we appreciate it big time, and we just want to start off by thanking everybody for coming out and supporting Fightville 2 this weekend with Bayou Fighting Championships. It was a great show. We had a lot of fans out there from everywhere in Lafayette, from the Head Kiss crew, from the Gladiators crew. It was a great night, so we definitely appreciate all you guys coming out and supporting us. So, Coach, give us your thoughts. First off, what's up, Chet? Good to see you, my man. Thank you for tuning in. Give us your thoughts on this weekend, Coach.
Yeah, it went good. MMA shows are I've done them in the past, and they can be difficult. You never really know what to expect. You kind of ride the lightning when it comes to an MMA show. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to boxing commissions, when it comes to fighters missing weight, not showing up, blood work. It just, the problems that can happen are...
Which they all did.
Right. Yeah. And so,
Christ.
For most people, managing that level of stress is pretty difficult. Like, all the problems is... things never go smooth, in other words. And so, being able to have a cool head and manage all those things and make sure you can still build out... I think we had 15 fights. We ended up with 12. Can be trying. It can be a practice in patience. But everything, in my opinion, went pretty smooth. The show ran pretty well. We had a lot of staff, and the fights were great. We had a lot of really great sponsors. I want to thank Deep Cover Solutions, Brems AC, Brant Sherman, and there were a ton of people who were behind the scenes a part of helping us. And so I think that's what makes a good show is a lot of people there with the right intentions to build something that more than anything is for the fighters to have an experience that propels the sport forward with the right spirit and the right attitude. Always there's going to be, I think people forget, but when you go to a fight show, 50% of the guys get their butt kicked in front of their parents and girlfriends. No one really remembers that part.
Right.
When you're going to see your friend fight, the assumption is always that, well, of course he's going to win, but
right.
50% lose.
Somebody, yeah.
I always tell
to.
my competitors, when you go to a tournament, everybody forgets this, but no matter how many matches there are, 50% of the people there to compete lose their first match. 50%.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes that can be a little crazy in the back with coaches, but man, it was incredible. All the fighters from red corner and blue corner were very respectful of each other. They fought to win. There were some beatings issued. There were some long fights. There were some short fights. There were some quick fights. There were some in the middle fights. But more than anything, I'm most proud of the behavior of the fighters, the behavior of the community, the behavior of the coaches. Everyone presented what we expect from mixed martial arts as an honorable sport, where men and women are allowed to compete in high-level combat in a spirit of sportsmanship and honor and dignity. And I think everybody did that, and for me as a coach and as somebody who fought, that's more important than anything else, and so our goal is to utilize this platform to help build more fighters from Acadiana and from Louisiana so we can get more guys on the big show. There's a lot of promotions in the state, but nobody's really sure what's going on with this one or what's going on with that one. Some are here for a year or two and then they disappear, and then so we need a platform where fighters can propel themselves to whatever level of the sport they want to go to. And unless somebody is running that with those intentions, it seems to go sideways.
I agree.
So
I agree. And I think keeping it local. Well, I see. So a bunch of our people who commented, Miss Annette, Miss Nicole, Jeff, Michael, all you guys, they were out there. What's up, guys? Mr. Nick, what's going on, man, big man? Chet. Yeah, so a lot of these people that commented on here, like, they were at the fights.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, one of the things that made Fightville special was that you are born and bred Lafayette. And so, like a lot of the promotions that come, like, these, nationwide promotions, like, they're here to make a buck and then they roll out,
Right.
Sure.
But, like, having somebody who is born and bred in Lafayette and wants to see this, like, they take ownership of it. You take ownership of something when it, when you represent it and you have stock in it, So I think that having you with Joey up there really, really made it special.
Yeah, too. And, that's another thing, too. I think Joe is a real important part as well. Joe Ancona was my martial arts instructor as a kid, and Joe, like me, can sometimes be misinterpreted, because in our current society, there's a lot of people who prefer to maybe kind of sugarcoat things or disguise the truth, or tell you one thing but really mean another thing, and not really give you the whole truth or the absolute raw data when it's needed. And if you know me, or you've trained with me, or you come to my school, that's just the way I am. I don't really sugarcoat things, or I don't really, I just be as honest as possible, because for me as a person, that's what I most appreciate. As an athlete, I needed the real data. I didn't need anyone trying to make me feel better about myself or tiptoeing around. No, I needed real information that could be utilized to better my career and better me as a person. And we've lost some of that in our society. We really have there's an entitlement issues, obviously, but there's also, like, I see it with parents, they're protecting their children from everything. They run in the bathroom and wipe every bathroom seat, and they're almost to the place are putting these kids in glass bubbles, to where once a child gets older, growing up in that environment, they become offended by everything.
I see.
Because they've never felt any adversity, or they've never felt, obviously, I didn't come up that way. I came up a little way.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Joe and I are really cut and dry. We're not going to tell you one thing and do another. We're going to do what we say, and we're going to give you the truth. And so I feel that works better when it comes to business, and I definitely feel it works better when it comes to a sport like MMA. It's a serious sport.
It is.
It's not a sport that you can allow people to be wishy-washy or to not understand the reality of what we're doing here. And so on some level, I think people do appreciate that. And Joe has taught me a lot about the sport. He's an older guy, so it's funny, he called me this morning, and we had a couple different videographers. So there was a bunch of different videographers.
There's cameras.
Yeah.
It was good. Like, you got so much. You got a lot of coverage.
One of our videographers was from New Orleans, and he did a cut up of one that I released last night. That was great. But it had the music was kind of, a little thuggish. And it was a little kind of.
I'm all about that.
I'm all about that. Come on, man.
And so for sure, like, that's my style. I grew up on the north side, and that's how. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is legit. I like this one. And so Joe called me this morning, and it's funny. He said, "Okay, Tim. So I have a question for you. So this new video that so and so did, I hear the music, and it's a little thuggish. It's a little gangster rapish.
Never would have expected Joey to bring that up.
I don't want to say anything because I'm not sure if that's something people would like or not. I'm old and I don't really know what's going on in that regard. So can you tell me what you think about the music?" And I said, "Joe, it's fresh. Like, it's tight." He was like, "Okay, cool. I won't tell him to change it." But we work well in that regard.
I'm glad he came to you about it.
Yeah. Two heads are better than one. And I was watching this guy fight when I was 7 years old at the Landmark. He really inspired me to be a fighter. And having him now as a business partner and us working together, we see things from two different perspectives. But those perspectives together in an environment where we're honest with each other make a great business. They make it work well. Joe by himself, he can be misunderstood by people and he can be frustrating. Me by myself can be misunderstood and can be frustrating.
You guys balance each other out well.
And so together, we really make a great team. So I'm super happy to have him. And he brings a lot of great stuff to the table. He knows a lot of great people. And it's a guy who's been doing fight shows for almost 40 years.
Wow.
That's a wealth of experience that you don't normally have. He's seen everything. He knows fighters and coaches all over the world, and I'm blessed to have him. A lot of people in Louisiana don't necessarily know the value of a Joe Ancona, but I'm lucky and blessed to definitely know that. So I definitely appreciate him. He's helped a lot.
Incredible. So what I want to know is, we kind of talked about this, like, you know, I went through a few different opponents. A lot of the Lafayette guys in general, like, there was this guy, there was this guy. You know, do you think that I do think that there is something to be said about Lafayette. Like, I think the culture here, like you were saying, a lot of that cut and dryness has been lost. A lot of the reality of things has been lost. Sure. But I do think that in comparison to other places, there is still some of that in Lafayette. Can you say, like, working with fighters from other places, can you say, like, if Lafayette is different in that regard, that there's still a little bit of that? Like, most of the guys from Lafayette, like you said, and they're like, hey, you're fighting this guy. And you're like, okay, you're fighting this guy. You know?
Historically, like, people say, like, man, there's a lot of UFC fighters and Bellator fighters from Acadiana. Like, this
specific
area, Acadiana. Even, like, Baton Rouge. There's a lot from the Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette area. Not so much northern Louisiana. No offense. I know Christian says it's God's country. I kind of feel like maybe it's dip country. But in any case, this South Louisiana market, that I-10 corridor from Slidell to Acadiana, has produced, man, you know, you're looking at 30 or 40, maybe 50 fighters. And not just like run-of-the-mill fighters.
Talented.
Like barn burners. Like people who people stand on their feet to watch. Right. You know, Melvin Guillard, Rich Clemente, Kyle Bradley, Tim Credeur, Dustin Poirier, Daniel, like Alan Joe. It goes on and on, and it's crazy. And so if you historically study bare knuckle boxing and the Duchess of Queensberry rules fighting that was kind of a part of all of America in the late 1700s and 1800s, Acadiana was infamous. Kaplan, Brobridge, Karen Crow, these places were infamous. People came from all over the country to fight guys outside of barns in these areas who weren't bigger than anyone else, didn't have like these genetically dysfunctioned hands or nothing. But there was a spirit of them that was different than other places.
They're about that life.
Their willingness to fight, their willingness to take punishment and bite down on their mouthpiece, and whether it was a mouthpiece, it might have just been a strap of leather.
Something.
But was world renowned, and we still see that spirit today. You know, it's still a part of the fighting community, and none of the guys from Gladiators or from Head Kicks ever called me and asked me like about their opponent or like what's his Facebook profile, you know, where Jimmy's from, can I see some of his videos, or nothing, not a word. They didn't even ask me their names. They were just like, I'm fine.
Let's do it. Let's go. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And it's just a starch contrast to other cards I put on in Houston or another one in Lafayette, to other guys who are very concerned about who am I fighting, what's his record, what's his coach's name, what's his wife's middle name, what's his, like, I don't know, bro. And not one guy from our gyms called to say anything other than I'll see you there, coach. I had a couple injuries. Tyson got a little bit concussed. You know, I don't want to say this out loud because I don't want to embarrass him, but that's what happens when you spar with Eric Scallion.
Eric Bros, dude.
Yeah, no, Eric and Tyson were sparring like maybe a week before the fight, and Eric's an emotional fighter, just like I am, just like Dustin is. We're emotional fighters, and you know, Tyson is an emotional fighter too, and you know, I have to sometimes like separate Cody and Tyson at the gym, and like they get like wild. I'm like, yo, we are not in the Cowboys parking lot.
Cowboys parking lot.
And I have to kind of separate them, but Tyson and Eric were going kind of hard, and Tyson hit him with a good one, and then Eric came back with a good one and kind of jogged Tyson a little bit, and he was a little bit out of it for a little bit at the end of that day. And he called me the next day and was like, man, I kind of feel drunk when I woke up. So I pulled him kind of from the card because I just don't feel like...
Well, that's your responsibility.
Well, you know, I could be wrong, but I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. And Bruce hurt his shoulder real bad. But other than that, you know, everybody was down to fight. They didn't really care who they were fighting. And that's definitely not something I normally see.
That's awesome. That is good to hear.
And we lost a lot of fights. You know, we probably 30 or so fights fell through in the show.
That's insane.
Yeah, you had 4 or 5 opponents.
Yeah, Ethan had
but
two.
for me as a promoter, you know, I don't think it's effective to call the fighter who's an amateur, who's training and has all kind of stress in their lives, and just be like, okay, this one fell through. I'll try to find you another one.
Right.
And you're going to do that 4 or 5 times before the fight card. Like, what are you calling them for every week to do that? It's just putting them on an emotional roller coaster that they don't need to be on. They're already on an emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. They're already on that. Do I need to heighten it by changing these names all the time? And, you know, hey, you're fighting. I'll take care of it. Show up and fight. Worry about you. And everybody I told that to had to fight.
Incredible. So, what do you think is... Tell us about some of the guys that were on the show who you think are the future. Like, tell us where they're going, where they are. Give us some insight on that.
You know, it kind of freaks me out, you know. I'll tell a story about one kid. So he started training with me when, I want to say he was like 14, 15 years old, maybe younger. And came to the gym, he was doing jiu-jitsu and MMA. I asked to sign him up and put him in the team program, and he got got mad and was like visibly angry. And I was like, what's up, dude? You are a teenager, you know that? Like, it's numerical.
Right.
I'm not deciding. It's a numerical equation. And he was like, no, I want to train. So I was like, okay. And we let him train with the adults. And he'd been training with the adults ever since. And he came sit down with me after about a year and said, Coach, you know, I want to fight eventually. And I said, what do you mean you want to fight? He said, yeah, I want to fight eventually. I said, well, you're still a child, but I'm going to give you some advice, and it's not in my best interest, but it is in yours. So what you should do is quit Gladiators Academy right now. I'll cancel your membership today. You don't owe me no money. And it's right about time for wrestling season.
No, exactly.
So you need to go wrestle at Karen Crow.
Kid's a monster.
And so he was like, no, but I want to train. I said, listen, son, if you ask me for my advice, I'm going to tell you. But after I tell you, just shut up and do it. Don't tell me more about your side, because then I'm not going to give you my advice no more. So he's like, okay. So I canceled his agreement. He went wrestle at Karen Crow. I don't think he did so well his first year wrestling. I mean, he didn't know the difference between a double leg and a bag of pretzels. So he wrestled, didn't do so great. After the wrestling season, I let him come back, and he trained off season. And then when wrestling got ramped up again, I canceled his agreement again. He went back and wrestled. Did way better his senior year. Had a wonderful season. I mean, his story is, you know, ridiculous. But he wrestled his senior season, came back. Karen Crow's not a powerhouse, but that kid did really well for having 2 years as a wrestler. Came back into the room and, just turned into a different child. Learned how to train, learned how to sacrifice, learned how to be a competitor. Most importantly, he learned how to lose and learn from losing and not allow failure to deter him from his goals. One of the big things that people mistake is they don't see failure as an ingredient in their success. They see failure as a detractor from their success. And I mean, he got in the room at 17 years old and was just, doing rounds with Tim Credeur, Dustin Poirier, Christian Fulgham, Eric Scallion, and for sure having tough rounds. He's a 135-pound fighter. We're big dudes, you know. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always going his way. He put the gi on and did jiu-jitsu and decided he wanted to fight. put him on the card, and I was a little bit nervous.
That's a card for his first. I mean, this is his first fight, right?
Yeah, first fight. I was a little bit nervous, and hometown, and
that's
how you going to deal with this? And at the weigh-ins, I said, "Okay, Rylan, are you ready for this?" He said, "I've been ready my whole life."
That's pretty terrifying.
Okay,
That's terrifying. All right, great.
Okay,
Not on the same team, bud.
And the next day, he knocked his opponent out in 8 seconds.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
So that's the guy that the first fight.
3 right hands.
Dude, yeah, it came out.
And
oh my god.
his opponent had already had a fight out in Alabama, and I'd watched the fight, and his opponent was really good. His opponent was really good on the ground with submissions. Not the best stand-up. I didn't know Rylan was that much better than him, but and I thought his opponent was going to have a tough time taking Rylan down.
For sure.
It's pretty scrappy. And after the fight, I was like, "Man, congratulations. How do you feel?" And he looked at me and said, "When's the next one?" And I mean, like, right then I knew, like,
it's a whole different.
Oh my goodness.
This kid's
a monster. Dude.
Yeah.
And so I was super proud of him. It took some convincing to get Cody Wells to fight on the card.
Man, that dude is a sleeper.
He's a monster.
Jiu-jitsu, dude, he would break your leg off.
My favorite thing about Cody Wells is he sort of looks like he works in the Piccadilly line.
I was about to say McDonald's.
But you would never
for sure.
have any idea.
That he could
And so
do,
he fought a really good wrestler from Oklahoma, and I knew it was going to be a hard fight. I didn't want him to be able to submit the guy early. I wanted him to try to leg lock the guy, and the guy punch his face for a while, and force Cody to do more jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I told Cody, listen, when the fight starts, I want you to walk across the cage and start punching him right in his face. And he's going to try to do a takedown, and then you can set up your stuff. But you have to listen to me. This isn't jiu-jitsu. He's going to gym tap and try to do a fake tap, and don't let go. Hold your submission until the ref stops you or until he obviously taps maybe 9 or 37 times.
I think that's what he did, too, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Cody caught the heel hook, and the guy reached under Cody's knee and fake tapped.
That's insane.
And so Cody stopped cranking, but looked at him, and the guy went to punch him in his face. And then Cody cranked, and then it was over.
wow.
But yeah, you know, Cody's a great kid, great talent.
He's a great
wonderful kid. And then we had Nick Boudreaux, who I think is probably the best 145er in the state. He's 1-2. He lost 2 fights. He had 0 grappling training. He's a Golden Glove boxer.
Yeah, he has some good hands for sure.
Really good hands. And he just got taken down and laid on both times at WFC.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get him fights. I just told you he's 0-2. He's 0-2 and he's like 20. I mean, you know.
He has a Conor McGregor vibe.
He does.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
So he's one of the guys I'm so excited about because, you know, another part about it too is he's a really good kid. He's young, but he has a great job. He's got some great people in his life.
Awesome.
Harley, his manager, is a great guy. Comes to the gym and coaches him up and hollers at him and cusses at him, so I don't have to do all that.
Perfect. Save your voice a little bit.
You know, he's got a good family behind him, good work ethic. I feel like sometimes the pants he chooses to wear in his personal life are a little tight.
Hence the
tighter.
Conor McGregor.
But he
Shorts
does look fly.
Hey, bro.
And his
He's
girl,
definitely got a swagger about
his
him.
beautiful girlfriend's a 37 out of 10. And so maybe the tight shorts, I don't know, dude.
It's not branding. It's not branding,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't matter.
When
if
I
it looks
see
good, it's
when
gotta
I
be
see
different.
Nick Boudreaux dressed, I know I'm old. What's going
Just
on?
not keeping up with the time.
He's too fly for me. So excellent. I think I was probably most impressed though with your fight.
Really?
Hey.
I didn't know your hands worked that well.
Yeah.
And they were. It looked
They're
like
working
you
on it.
remembered they could punch you. And the
I
transitions on the ground were good. I knew the guy you were fighting was tough.
Bro.
He had never fought before, but I knew Zach Frugier was tough. You know, interestingly enough, he trained for a long time out near the Army base, Fort Hood. He grew up kind of near the Army base and trained with Chris Champagne for a long time. And just didn't really never had a fight. He was young, like 13 when he started. And he's a tattoo artist, moved to Homa. And he's trained with Derek Bro and a couple other guys, but he didn't really have a home to train regularly. And so I knew he was going to be a tough fight. And I knew if I was going to put him against anybody, it was going to have to be somebody that was going to be good and give both of you a good test, which I think it was a great fight.
Yeah, I had a good time for sure.
But since then, I've talked to Zach a couple times, and
dude's got to fight again.
Got to get him in Derek's school, and
for
then
sure.
we're going to get him training out here, coming out here somewhere. You know, it's tough for a fighter like that, a rogue fighter, a renegade fighter, to kind of find a home. When you train in MMA for a while, you know that this is MMA. This isn't accounting. And for the most part, you know, there's some seedy characters in the sport. On the promotion side, for sure, but, you know, also in the coaching aspect and in the, even as fighters, you know, guys do some real dirty stuff to each other sometimes, and I've seen it. We don't really have the problem in Acadiana.
Right.
Because, you know, myself and Eric and Christian and Micah and Aaron have
amazing characters.
A certain level of what we expect. And that has been portrayed to the community of guys that we train with. And so we don't necessarily have those same issues. But that isn't the case everywhere. You know, in other places, things are a little shisty and shady, and he's struggled with some of that. So I invited him out, and I hope he continues to train and comes out here and trains with us, because very talented.
For sure.
And I'd love to see a guy like him fight definitely somebody not on our team,
right? Yeah,
who, after having 3 or 4 months of training, like a guy like that can really like go somewhere, and he's really passionate and
the toughness he displayed
sure.
too. You can't teach that.
He was game, dude.
And I'm down to train him and give him pad work and get some free tattoos, and you know,
Yeah.
shout out Zach Frazier.
Tattoos, man. I'm ready for my second one.
He had some crazy tattoos.
I'm ready for my second one. This is just not.
What you get next, Snoopy?
I was thinking like
ain't no Brady Gotro, man.
What would I say? Kurt. This is my medical alert tattoo. It doesn't really count.
Doesn't count.
I know. Yeah. So
count.
I'm ready for something like you know, Kurt. You know, Mr. Kurt fought. Mr. Kurt's slogan is
try not to die.
Low key, high impact.
Oh, okay.
Low key, high impact, which I like. I'm not getting ready to tattoo on me,
Yeah,
but I don't know, something kind of douchey like
you want something
like what's the that skull that everybody gets like on their
affliction skull or something like that.
Yeah.
You know the
you should get built hard on your throat right now.
Built hard.
Tap out on your back.
Built to last, like a Ford.
Miss Steiner would leave you.
I'm gonna get it
But the key
Exit
is do it
after we get married.
After the
So
wedding.
she's stuck.
She
She's gonna be on here in a few minutes. She'll come. She'll listen to it.
I was also impressed with Kurt Arsalan. I think he's definitely going to vie for the title at the old folks home in the next 3 to 5 years.
CPA Fighting Championship?
Yeah, but you know, like, he's under a lot of pressure, you know. At 51 years old, you know. I've had a fighter who fought for me who died from injury sustained in a fight. Not a lot of coaches, I mean, I don't think there's any coaches in America who've had that happen to them. But it happened to me, so it makes me a little gun shy about fighting. And sometimes people are critical about the way I train fighters. Like, maybe I'm a little too rough, I go a little too hard, I'm a little too brutal, my practices are a little too rough. But, you know, I have a kid out there in Houston, he doesn't have a dad because I didn't build practices that tested him the way he should have been tested. And he thought he could fight. And if he'd have been in the rooms that I have now, he'd have never thought that.
I see.
And, you know, it's my job to prepare people, not just physically, but psychologically and mentally and emotionally to deal with the stress of fighting. And it is stress. There's a lot of pressure leading up and dealing with people and the fear of getting beat up in front of all your family and friends and getting knocked out. There's obviously the health threat. And, you know, I know what Kurt wanted to do, and I respect it. I was cornered him for the fight he had, I think it was
10 years ago.
37 years ago. 10 years ago.
Longer than, yeah.
10 years ago. And, you know, he did great in that fight. And so I didn't ever question his heart or question his training or question his desire. For me, it's just the reality of there's a 51-year-old man competing. And, you know, life is fragile. And fighting in MMA isn't as important as so many other things.
Right.
Be it a goal or not a goal. And so, you know, I have some hesitations because of what I've been through and things I've had with other fighters. But Yeah, Kurt was impressive.
That was awesome.
It was impressive, like
inspiring.
his stand up. It was impressive his patience. It was impressive his willingness to get in the fight and not just force the takedown.
Right.
So yeah, big props to Kurt, man. That was just a really tough fight for anyone, much less a 51-year-old man. And so I was super impressed.
Pretty inspiring.
One other thing I forgot to say. Cody Wells wasn't feeling good the week before the fight, and he kind of said something about, if you know Cody, he doesn't say anything.
No, yeah.
But he was like, "Oh, my stomach hurts," and I was like, "You all right?" "I think it's gas. Stomach hurts." But he didn't really say much, you know. Him and Tyson over there trading the world's worst body shots, and so we after the fights, me and Cody and Rylan, I took both of them. To bare knuckle boxing on Saturday.
I saw that.
That was crazy.
Nuts.
We can talk about that later.
Holy crap!
That's
man.
crazy.
That was unbelievable. But on the way when we were there, Cody was complaining about his stomach hurt and he had gas or something. And listen, if you know Cody, he doesn't complain about anything. He doesn't say anything. So I called him Sunday and he was still hurting. He told me he was going to go to the doctor Monday. And Tuesday he had emergency surgery and had his gallbladder removed.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah, he had an infected gallbladder.
When you thought that?
All the
is
time.
about 2 weeks worth of an infected gallbladder.
And
That
never
is-
said a word.
That is hard.
He just had a stomach ache.
That's why, dude. That's why he's hardcore.
You know what I'm saying?
He's a
So
he's a
if
closet
you're
guy.
watching this, go on Facebook, find Cody Wells,
That's awesome.
and send him a get better soon. He told me his stomach was hurting so bad he thought he was going to die, but he wasn't going to pull out of the fight. And he went out there and
Jacked
hooked
that
somebody in 38 seconds and still came with me to bare knuckle boxing.
Dude, that's a true.
And
That's a
recently has had his gallbladder removed
That
this
is
week.
rap. Cody's one of those
Gangsta.
guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys like if you were a mugger, you would pick Cody out of a crowd
Yeah.
to mug and he would kill you.
Yeah.
He would kill you shortly after. Like that's so scary. Like I think like Joe Rogan talked about that. He's like, how do people like just think they can fight when they can't fight? You don't know anything about that guy. Cody's that guy. Like,
Yeah, Cody's that guy.
You would pick Cody to fight and
Cody's
he would
that
be
guy.
in your worst.
I was also
nightmare
impressed with
ever.
Julian Orozco from Mid City
yeah.
MMA. He's a tough guy, man, and he's got he's a 125 pounder. It's tough to find a 125 pounder, and he's kind of had a tough run. You know, he's got a decent record, but he's had some tougher fights. You know, he had a tough fight with Lachlan Christonis, but I really think he's a kid at 125 that can really go somewhere, and he just.
Oh yeah, he went to town.
He was a little bit conservative. His opponent, Hunter Cornelius, rushed him, and he dropped him dead to rights with a right hand and literally just destroyed him with ground and pound in about 10 seconds. So very impressive. Sean Gayton's, all his students always have great stand-up, great grappling. Brandon Hebert's fight was terrifying.
Thug Passion.
Yeah,
Thug
he's
Passion.
terrible.
He's on our team though. That's good
4-0.
news.
4-0.
He's on our
Terrifying.
team. Thank goodness.
When is he gonna turn pro, man? How about that? That's the question.
You know, I don't know. I never. There's a couple fights out there we still want. There's a Jamal Tatum fight out there.
Oh yeah.
We want that fight, and you know, it's great to go pro.
Right.
You know, but you know, people forget. You know, when you go pro, you
No,
fight
no.
some dudes who got 25, 30 fights. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool to go pro until you fight somebody with 17 amateur fights, 7 pro fights, and they got 25 fights. Like,
Right.
That's a big difference. Stray Bear has 4 fights.
And they're all in the first round.
Yeah. You know,
30
they're
seconds.
all quick
Yeah.
fights.
He
You know?
needs a
So
little, yeah.
I really need him to get more. It's not about how many fights he has or how dominant he is. For me, as a coach, it's a lot about ring time.
Experience.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think AJ Fletcher's fight with Jalen Hill and AJ Fletcher's last fight with Jesse Roberts are the kind of fights that give you the fire to put in the work to go pro.
Right.
Right? Losing fights where you messed up your weight cut and they sucked the energy out of you and you ran out of gas and you had to gut it out and you were getting beat up and thrown on your neck and super frustrated. You know, AJ was at practice on Monday.
Saw that.
AJ was at practice on Tuesday. AJ was in my jiu-jitsu class last night. failure is an integral ingredient in great success.
Say it one more time.
Failure is an integral ingredient in great success. And it's the thing that when somebody meets that failure, how they react is a key indicator in where they are or are not going to go throughout the rest of their life. And that's true for MMA, it's true for marriage, it's true for parenting, it's true for a lot of things. And so Jalen Hill did a great job. I mean, he knew exactly what he had to do to beat AJ.
For sure.
And he did it.
But they're running out of time to wrestle AJ.
They're running out of time.
I remember Jesse did it to AJ at WFC, and then this guy did it maybe if somebody goes in there with the same game plan a couple more times and he defends it, and they have to, that's going to be bad.
So that's really what I care about when it comes to a fighter. You know, how many minutes have they been in there? How much adversity have they been through? How hard has the fights been? You know, Brandon's awesome. Could he beat some pros? Yep. Is he ready to go in there and do 15-minute death battle with a great heavyweight? I'm not sure. Those are questions that we need to answer. I want to see him do 9 minutes with a tough guy who's going to push him. Is that guy out there for us to find in the Acadiana area or in the Louisiana area? I'm not sure. You know, we struggled with that with Dustin, and it's a struggle.
Plus, it's a heavyweight.
It's
like a whole different sport with heavyweight.
It's a whole different sport. They're hard to find, you know. It took a lot to find Dustin fights where we could challenge Dustin, and he wasn't going to go in there and just smoke somebody real quick, you know. And so, you know, Brandon's a lot like that. You know, it's hard to find him somebody who's going to get the ring time that we need out of him. But I think it's going to happen. But I was really impressed with Eric's performance.
Oh, Eric. Oh, my gosh.
I think Eric has shown...
Eric is a monster.
Yeah, but there's been times in his career where he wasn't that monster. And he's got all the talent in the world, but for one reason or another, sometimes Eric's biggest enemy is Eric.
Sure.
And sometimes he kind of doesn't have the confidence in himself. He doesn't see in him what I see in him. He doesn't have the confidence sometimes in himself that I know exists. Eric's potential is so far larger than I think he realizes. And, you know, that could be a lot of coming up under me fighting in the UFC. And, I mean, I'm being honest, like, I was beating up Eric a lot leading up to fights. And so I could see how that confidence would get eroded.
Right. Yeah.
And, of course, he had Eric in the Dustin in the room and Christian in the room. And, you know, you always got Paco there throwing Mexican hate bombs. And so, you know, for whatever reason, I feel like sometimes when it comes to confidence, Eric doesn't believe in himself as much as I feel he should. I think Eric should fight like Conor McGregor because that's how I see him. But in that fight, there was a moment in the fight where I could see him getting frustrated and getting a little overwhelmed or maybe a little down on himself, like he's not getting the finish, he's not getting the position, the guy's getting out. And I saw a little at one point, and it made me scared. Like I got a little nervous. I had to go over there and sit by his wife. That was a harder fight than his fight with Chris Anthony.
I heard about that.
Hey, Blair's about that life. You know,
she'll throw that cage.
She'll put their hands on you. She don't care about no commissioner badge. But I saw a little bit of that at one point, and you know, man, the thing about Eric, I talked to him this morning, and he just gets a little bit better every time. As soon as I saw that in him, and a little fade, and a little lack of confidence, or just a little like, I saw him suck it up and put one foot in front of the other and march through his opponent to victory. And to be honest, like, those experiences are what it takes to prove to a fighter that they belong, that they can beat the best in the world. It's not what you do on pads. It's not what you do in the training room. It's what you do when your mind tells you that you're done. And you feel the tinge of failure, and you feel the bite of quitting, and you push that shit down, and you fight onward, because that's what's going to get you to the next stage in your career, is the ability to usurp yourself above what you believed you were capable of and push yourself to heights that maybe were unimagined by you before. Eric walks away from that fight a little bit more confident, a little bit more capable, a little bit more aware. Eric sees himself a little bit closer to the way I see him. Right. And one day, he'll see himself the way I see him. But it's going to take a process of him being in that fire and watching himself grow.
I see.
And it was great for me to watch him do that in front of his wife. And you know, the crazy part where a lot of other people don't understand is no one in that arena probably saw Eric go through that except for me and Blair.
Right.
And so the reason Blair was emotional and the reason Blair was a lot of that was happening was because she saw that. And she wants in her husband for him to beat those demons. She wants him to conquer those things. But at the same time, when she sees him in that fire, she loves him and it scares her. Mm-hmm. But, you know, like a true gladiator, Eric took the test on, head on, and beat it.
He did.
And that's what's impressive.
And got
about
his
yeah.
jiu-jitsu black belt.
And watching the fight, I could almost see where he almost broke.
Yeah, I
the
see
guy
what you're
sprawled
saying
on him,
now.
you know. Kind of reminded me of the JD fight when JD fought the same guy, sprawled.
And that's when JD broke.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could see where Eric started pushing.
I hate training with Eric.
That's pretty cool.
Relentless.
Dude, he never stops. And I'm talking like the whole, like sparring, he walks literally right into you and throws his right hand, and takes you down, and throws his right hand. I'm like, gosh, this is terrible.
Relentlessness.
Yeah, and like I have to remind myself like a lot, like when we were grappling, Eric wrestled in college, like I take a lot of guys down, and Eric is just really hard to grapple with, you know?
Sure.
And like I have to remind myself a lot of times, like, bro, like, look, you got time, like, let's train, you know? Like I know that Eric's like on a different level. He's one of those guys, like the way that he trains is there's no time to think.
It was legit college. Was it Iowa, Nebraska?
Wartburg. In Iowa.
I saw him talk about it. I didn't realize the rest of it was the dude.
Wartburg is a feeder school. It's like not a junior, like a junior college.
Like D2 or D3.
Wartburg's not a junior college, but it's kind of a college where a lot of people will go there for 2 years and then go to Iowa.
It's like football
or go to Pennsylvania.
But it's
not a 2-year college. No. It's just a Division II or Division III, but it's one of the best D2, D3 wrestling schools, and it's in Iowa.
And you move on to
Yeah.
And he had I forget his wrestling coach's name, but his wrestling coach wrestled for Gable. Like he had a legit wrestling coach.
Yeah, he's
I know, you know, Eric has a lot of he kind of struggled with his wrestling career ending many years ago, and it was precious, man. I saw his video, and his old coach commented on his video.
No,
and it was precious, you know, just to see like his old coach see that he's come full circle.
Yeah,
he's beat those demons, you know, and he's come full circle. That's incredible to watch.
I feel like that was a pivotal fight in his career.
You know
what I mean? Black belt, the way he fought through. There's a lot of battles in that fight that he pushed through.
That dude's a beast.
I'm a big dude. I'm a big guy, and I've been grappling for a long time. And most people, when I wrestle with and I train with, I can just not go but I try to not be a 250-pound black belt on guys, you know? And not like when I'm wrestling with you, I'm not going light, but I'm trying not to be 250 pounds and do knee on your throat. Like, that's not cool. Like, you're not getting anything out of that. That's just abusive, you know? But when I wrestle with Eric, I gotta go the whole time, all the way. Just like Dustin, I gotta wrestle the whole time, all the way, full speed, try to kill him. There's no other way. And then when the bell rings, he's still trying to single leg. And that relentlessness is something that has come back into his life. It wasn't always there. Back in the day when Dustin was fighting and Eric was fighting, Eric would quit practices early. He'd get frustrated. He'd be doing dumb stuff and not show up. And he just gave up on himself a little bit, you know? And that guy's dead.
That's awesome.
You know, that guy's dead. There's a completely new guy now. And, you know, I do believe in another 6 months or a year, Eric can be fighting at the highest level in our sport. He's got a little more work to do, but I think he has the talent and the work ethic to get there.
How old is he?
Just turned 30, maybe.
Just turned 30?
So Aaron claims that's the prime. Aaron's
turned 29.
That's the prime. So for those of you watching that maybe just joined, Coach Tim is a Louisiana MMA legend. One of the first black belt, the first person to be awarded Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Louisiana. Correct?
Hey now.
The first Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Louisiana. Coached Coach Aaron, coached all the local Jiu-Jitsu black belts around here in the UFC, and just we all look up to and appreciate Coach Tim. So it is incredible to have him on the show. But one thing,
I got a story before you go on. I got something funny with Tim. I told you this yesterday. How me and Tim met, and there's no way you remember Tim. This was back in fall of 2010.
I get a lot of these stories.
But I appreciate it. I don't think you can get away with that these days. Well, you might be able to, but so I walked in Gladiators, and I told you I want to fight, right? So you brought me back to your office.
Oh, gracious.
Ask me a couple questions, what got you into this? I tell you the Rampage Forrest Griffin fight. You're like, hey, I was in the corner of Forrest. I'm like, no way, pretty cool. And I want to say, I just want to box. You're like, you don't want to do jiu-jitsu. I'm stupid, 19, 18 years old.
Sure.
You say, okay, let's go on the mats. So we go on the mats. First you hold the pads for me. We box, right?
No box.
I don't know what I'm doing, right? Bop, taking hooks to the ear, taking jabs to the eye. It's all good. Move on to jiu-jitsu. Puts a clinic on me for about 5 minutes. But it's things like that. I kept going with it. I respected that. It's all good. Thought it was pretty funny to say that. That's how we first met. That was my first encounter with the legend of
I've had
Tim
this introduction a number of times with people that come in and tell me they want to fight. So,
but I'm glad you did it because
so
you know what I mean.
The thing for you though is that same story can probably be told by 300 or 400 people in the gym.
300 or 400
because they fell off.
Well, 300 or 400 could tell the story that you told, but it really ends after the grappling match.
Correct.
So they come in and say, "Yo, I'm ready to fight." It happens to us regularly. I'm not sure if it happens to Aaron, but it happens. Oh, I have people come into the gym and say, "Where's the sign-up sheet for the UFC?"
I don't think I was that stupid.
That's a whole nother
So
level.
people come in and everyone says the same thing. No one's ever in history, not literally never in 20 years, walked in our office and said, "Hey, what's up? So I really like MMA. I'm thinking about, I kind of want to fight, and my specialty is grappling, and I want to do jiu-jitsu and go fight in MMA."
Never.
Not once in history. But I've met thousands of people whose main thing was striking.
Yeah, it's a lot cooler.
No, it's not cooler. It's what we're comfortable with.
Right.
Like I'm comfortable talking to you this close. Mm-hmm. This spatial awareness is something we're comfortable with in America. This level of distance, and I can be comfortable, put my hands on you, right? But as soon as I get this close, people start like, "Oh, what's he doing?" When the reality of MMA, especially at an amateur level, is something people do not understand. And I'm going to do this numerically for you, and it's going to blow your mind that you never did these numbers. Okay? So in the UFC, the ring is 30 by 30, which is 900 square feet. It's a good bit of room to move around.
Sure.
The cage we fought in is 20 by 20.
Okay, a little bit more than that.
That's 400 square feet.
That's fair, yeah.
You are not going to do any kind of boxing match in a 400 by 400 bathroom.
Right.
And so when some people say, "Man, I just don't understand why amateur fights, everybody grapples so much. Like they grab each other so much." They're in a bathroom.
Right.
There's nowhere to go. Where are you going to go?
Stay there
Where do you go? Boom, they're right there. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So if you can't grapple, you're never going to make it to the UFC because the area to build your skills in MMA will never be practiced in a 30-foot cage.
Right.
It will never happen. It's literally impossible. If we would have done a 30 by 30-foot cage at Hyman, we'd have lost 40 tables.
Right.
Which we couldn't have afforded the show.
Correct.
So The sport of MMA starts in small cages that require a wrestling and grappling pedigree to survive. So you're never going to experience any success in MMA unless you have at least the ability to wrestle enough to stay standing or jiu-jitsu enough to not live on the bottom.
Right.
Which Nick Boudreau discovered that immediately. You can tell people whatever they want. When you get in a 20-foot by 20-foot cage, you're like, okay, you can box, but they can grab you. You're like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go.
Walls.
When you do those numbers and you watch amateur fighting, you realize pretty quickly, grappling and jiu-jitsu is not a style you do. It's a necessity you have. Because without it, you can never fight on your feet. The only way I can fight on my feet is if I can wrestle so well and am so dangerous on the ground that the other person doesn't want to wrestle me or take me down. So this is why a kid like Ryland is going to do so well.
Yeah.
Like, he ain't worried about getting taken down.
Right.
He ain't worried about it. But the reason he's not worried about it is because his wrestling pedigree, his wrestling skill, and his ability to be comfortable on the ground allows him the opportunity. Whereas a guy like Nick Boudreau used to be nervous about getting on the ground. So he never uncorks his power as much. In his second fight, he had grappling training. But he was nervous to get taken down. And that nervousness, that fear, inhibited his ability to throw. Whereas Ryland's like, I don't care. Yeah. Try to take me down. Let's do it. We're throwing monsters.
He was throwing.
Because that fear no longer exists.
Right.
And so in amateur MMA, if you want to do it, go wrestle. Go do jiu-jitsu. Immediately. Go in as many grappling tournaments as you possibly can. We force our students to grapple in grappling tournaments. I want to fight, coach. Don't ever tell me that again till you do 4 or 5 grappling tournaments, 2 or 3 smokers, then we'll talk about it. Yeah, but that's going to take me a little while. I wanted to fight from my mom next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Wrong sport.
Just look at some of the best in the world. Henry Cejudo, the Olympic, champion. Daniel Cormier.
But when you're saying, when you're saying that, there's even enough. What about Conor McGregor?
Yeah.
His head coach is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Right. They're from a jiu-jitsu school. Right. He's not even from a stand-up school. Who's Conor McGregor's boxing coach? You don't even know. And that's the case throughout tons of guys, Dustin Poirier's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's going to stand up and knock you out.
Right.
Daniel Cormier's an Olympic wrestler. He just won the heavyweight title with a right hook.
The right hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Miocic is a collegiate wrestler. Yeah. The list goes on for a reason. Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, 2 elite level wrestlers who chose to stand up and kickbox.
Brock Lesnar won a championship with it.
If one of them couldn't grapple, why stand up?
Right.
You don't got the skills to be here? No problem. No handed cartwheel. Oh, party's over. Grappling's not a style, it's a necessity.
Absolutely. Which is like teaching my which I think is coming around, like guys like you and other guys who are evolving the sport, like my MMA classes at UL though, for example. I got a great crew for the most part, but I could see the difference in the class from when I'm like, hey guys, we're going to grapple today. We're going to do jiu-jitsu today. I'm like, hey guys, we're going to kickbox today. It's completely different.
Yeah!
People are like, hey, we're going to kickbox. I'm like, dude, the likelihood of you using like jab, right leg kick in a fight is very, very low. Very, very low.
Parking like a cowboy.
Yeah. But the likelihood of you like getting backed up against the wall, like at the bar.
The likelihood of somebody grabbing you at Mardi Gras and you body lock taking them down is pretty much 100% if you're anywhere near Jefferson.
And I'm trying to figure out how to portray. I was like, look, like all the greats that I know, they grab you, but they're kneeing you and they're elbowing you. But like there's some level of grappling involved, like there's some, so it's just hard to try and figure out like how to portray that to people on a like it's not as flashy, I guess, but like
not until they do it or experience and get humbled.
And then I
got humbled that
day. Or they start to love it, that's one thing. Like there's a couple guys, I only had to do it a couple times last year, but just like
but most people are not necessarily as concerned about defending themselves as they say. They're more concerned about having fun and being entertained.
Right.
And so stand-up is,
right.
It's funner. It's more entertaining. I feel like I'm good at this, even though I look like I'm drowning in a swimming pool.
Right.
they still have the belief, the feeling that they're good at this.
I can knock somebody out, you know what I mean?
When you grapple, that feeling goes away right away. Yeah. It's no longer fun. You know you're not good at this.
Grind.
And so the 4 stages of learning are unconscious. Let me think before I say this. Okay, unconscious incompetence.
I'm gonna write this down.
Unconscious incompetence.
Right.
So when a guy walks in,
like
when Tyler walked in, he was completely unconscious of how incompetent he was.
Exactly.
He thought, I know what I'm doing. And like you were just justifying that. You were like, I was thinking, I didn't even know what I was doing. Yeah, I passed. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Now you know that. Now you're conscious of that incompetence, right? But in the stand-up, it's easy to fake it. It's easy to play like you know what you're doing, right? But in jiu-jitsu, it's not possible. It's completely impossible. So when you walk in a facility and you have this unconscious incompetence, you can keep that in stand-up. You can go in a stand-up class and throw mollywoppers and make the pads and make noise and still feel like I'm not yet enlightened. Because the next level of learning is conscious incompetence. And so when people have to face the fact that they know they don't know shit, that's hard for people to face.
Right.
And so when you're an 18 to 26-year-old male and you walk in a gym and you ready to fight in the UFC,
Let's go.
And 30 minutes later, you leave knowing you don't know nothing. That feeling of vulnerability, that feeling of weakness, that feeling when you get in your car and you start the engine, I think that guy could have killed me just now. And I have made a horrible mistake. What was I thinking? That feeling is overwhelming for people. But the next stage is conscious competence. I know, now I know what I got to do. Now, but it takes people a long time. When people are introduced to conscious incompetence, it's more than a lot of people with big trucks' egos can deal with. Like your ego, you have a hard time, you know? You have a good job at the cold tubing place, and you got your new glasses, and you ready, your gels in your hair. And then when you get exposed, it's not about anybody seeing it. It's about in your mind, you're like, man, dude, I am in danger.
Right.
There's people like that just walking around at Walmart.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Like I just got in a fight with some, you thinking this, like I got in a fight with some dude. I was talking shit to this guy. Like, what if it would have been that guy? He would have killed me. That's more than some people can actually handle. Yeah. Now there are people out there who have great character and can face that, like Tyler did, and say, "Man, you know what? That was incredible. I want to learn this stuff. Exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and roll back my UFC dreams for a minute. Right. I'm gonna try to figure out what just happened." And over the years, I've realized that introducing people to conscious incompetence early doesn't always go that well.
Right.
Introducing you the first day, letting people go in our MMA 101 class and kind of doing their thing for a while, and then slowly being integrated into the culture of our gym, then come to a jiu-jitsu class and have the jellyfish Cody Wells just run you through the gamut, is a little easier, because now they're like, okay, wow, this is just another aspect to jiu-jitsu. Right. But a lot of this process of doing this is trying not to emotionally and psychologically crush people's expectations. It's not a physical thing, because the experience you had, I didn't hurt you. No. You didn't get your arm broken or nothing. You didn't have no marks on your face. Nothing happened. But psychologically, something happened psychologically. Yeah. And as teachers, and as people who run a business, we have to take a little more time. Allowing people to go through that psychological transition. I used to introduce that psychological transition immediately. Right. And
that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you could do that these days.
It's too tough for most people. Yeah. But that is really what the struggle is. And that is really what people battle with when they say, I don't really like jiu-jitsu. It's not that you don't like jiu-jitsu. you really don't like the truth of how vulnerable you are because you have none.
Right.
That's what you really don't like about jiu-jitsu. Because once you let go of that, doing jiu-jitsu is really fun. Like with your friends that you like, it's so much fun. Like it's so much fun.
Yeah.
But having to face the fact that, oh, wait a second, I am not Mike Tyson's younger lost brother. I'm not that guy. I thought I was. I was born in Karen Crow, and I thought maybe, but I'm not. That's tough for some people to handle. For me, I got beat up a lot of my life. I was, bullied and grew up on the north side, and I never at any time thought I was going to be this world beater and go fight. I never had any impressions of that. I got hit with bike chains. I got beat up. I played football for the Lisa Jaguars on the north side. We never even had another white kid try out in 4 years. I mean, rides home from there were,
dude.
If you don't know about Domain Field, go check it out. It's right next to the Henry Moss building. It's serious.
That's for real.
I never had this mentality.
Right.
Not because I was a victim or anything, but I was in enough little street fights to know I am not invincible.
Yeah.
Right.
I am not, I can get slapped just as much as anybody else. I'll keep my hands up. And I knew how to fight. My dad was a boxer. I knew how to fight. I trained in martial arts. And so that mentality, like Dustin had that same mentality. He had been in a lot of scraps as a kid, and I'm sure he had won some, but he'd also got his issue many times. Mm-hmm. So when he came in the gym and I was bigger, I was stronger, and I was at the beginning, it wasn't going his way. He was a lot smaller than me. He wasn't as good as I was. It didn't bother him. It didn't deter him. It wasn't his ego when it came to fighting wasn't something that was in his way. And that made a big impact on his ability to get better.
It is pretty crazy to think that we have a future world champ from another one.
It's crazy to think we're watching the UFC right now and Dustin is fighting Korean Zombie, and there's me and Julian and Josh.
That is crazy. That's a random
story about that too.
That's a random.
We filmed a commercial at Gladiators for zombies, and I was one of the zombies.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, no, that was for my fight in Quebec with Tom Lawler that got canceled.
Oh man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
So why
the Lost tapes. It's on YouTube.
Okay. The Lost.
I'm in there somewhere.
The Lost
zombie ended up
tapes. Okay, so we're kind of getting to the end. We try not to go too much over an hour. So tell us. Also, before we get too crazy, guess who's grappling now?
Who's that?
Coach Tyler Launchaway.
I'm back at it. Well, I've been grappling for a while, but I'm back at it.
He's in it. Like he's gonna be doing tournaments soon.
Yeah, I'm doing submission
he's gonna be in this thing. We try to be well rounded.
I have people in the gym, so
nice.
Hype it up and I'm back at it, man.
It's gonna be cool. But tell us. So Fightville was great. Just recap that. What's next? Where are we going?
Fightville 3. What's the future?
Where are we going from here?
So we're gonna be doing a show in Baton Rouge, Capital City Fight Nights. Late October,
like that.
Kind of depends on some venues. And then, of course, we have November 10th is WFC is coming to Cypress Bayou. But we are going to do Fightville 3 on December 15th at the Hyman Center.
Is that breaking news?
Seasons beatings.
Seasons beatings.
Breaking news.
That's it,
I
guys.
just booked the venue the other day.
What is it? December
15th
at the Hyman.
At the Hyman Center.
Awesome.
Fightville 3 Seasons beatings.
That's hilarious.
All ages. Let the children watch.
What a beautiful thing.
It's kind of crazy. I have 3 kids, and they're the most precious thing that's ever happened. Nothing will ever compare. First to my wife, who's amazing. She's an alien, but my 3 kids are just the most precious thing, but they're all very different. Audrey is a perfectionist, and she wants to be perfect for mom and dad, and she is just an angel. And the baby, Wesley, is also my favorite human that we've seen on earth so far. He's incredible, precious. And then the middle one.
Who's that? Old Wesley?
Henry.
Oh, Henry. Wesley the little.
Henry's a lot like his father. Right? Causes lots of problems. But Henry has been coming to fights with me for a while. And him and Audrey are actually coming out reffing the fights in Shreveport this weekend.
Oh, neat.
And Henry and Audrey are coming with me. They sit cage side. But at the fights on Saturday.
Oh, God.
after the fight, I'm like, Eric, congratulations. Then Eric's walking around the ring. He was like, yo, Henry was talking shit to my opponent.
No way, dude.
The whole fight. I said, what do you mean? He said 3 times I took Chris Anthony down. We're by the cage, and Henry was like, Eric, you punch his face. Eric, you punch his face.
That's awesome.
So that's my son,
Just like
Henry.
his father.
Oh, he's ready to go.
Dude, that's awesome, dude.
He stands on this chair and was screaming at Eric to punch
his face.
Yeah. So all ages.
Wow.
We're exposing a new generation.
That's
awesome.
insane.
Yeah.
It was so classy though. Like,
dude, it was a smooth show.
It was great, man.
Everything was
so
smooth.
I was so happy to be a part of it.
One person I need to thank too is he really never gets the credit he deserves. But Professor Josh Artigue, I let him run. When it comes to like organizing the show and getting the fighters in order and getting everybody in the back all ready and everybody coming out on time and coming to the ring on time and all that. When it comes to organizing all those moving parts, what you're really looking for is a guy who wears a belt with his jeans and tucks his t-shirt in. Tucks his t-shirt into those jeans with his belt on. That level of nerdity is what you need. And, of course I tease him. Josh is champion in his own right. He won the first ever Louisiana Magic the Gathering championships. Wow. Some of you may not know that. Magic the Gathering is the Dungeons & Dragons card game.
I thought it was like LARPing.
Louisiana's first champion. We celebrate that on my mats during my classes a lot. I don't ever want him to forget it. But, yeah, I tease Josh a lot. We tease each other. But, man, I couldn't do what I do without him. I run a bunch of businesses, and Josh really runs Gladiators. He's the manager and head coach over there. And I couldn't have done Fiveville without him. We're different characters. We're almost polar opposites. I'm a little bit more charismatic. I'm really good at marketing. I'm good at meeting people. He's good at magic. But he's really organized. And he was a Marine, and he was a high school teacher. He's really numbers oriented and graphs and charts. He sees things differently than I do, and it just makes a great team. And so things wouldn't have went as smooth if it wasn't for Josh. He does an incredible job. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. Everybody's like, oh, Tim, great job. Right. But really, I know, it would have been a shit show without Josh.
Yeah, we were walking
super
out.
Lucky. And he don't say nothing, he just makes sure his t-shirt stays tucked in, and he goes out and gets a Masonic burger on the way home.
Dude.
And don't care, and he's awesome.
I was walking out, you would walk to the back before we would walk, and he'd be like, ready to fight? I'm like, yes sir. He's like, okay, he said you came here to fight. Fight. I forget some other stuff he told me, but he was basically he was basically like, don't be a bitch. He was basically
don't go out
like swing. You came here to fight, and you could tell it was a little bit of this is big time for us. You fight, and I was like, yes sir, let's go. So I came at work, and I was like, I tried to come out and kill the guy, which I thought I almost did.
I mean, you got to think Josh was a guy. I fought on the same card with him in 2000, and Josh did a rolling knee bar.
Hilarious.
And submitted a guy with a rolling knee bar in an MMA fight.
Before anybody was...
no one even knew what a knee bar... People were booing. They were like, is this WWF? People didn't even know what was going on. And Josh had some old, I think he didn't even have gloves. I think he had some, those floaties. And he just put some tape on some floaties for his gloves. They were horrible.
Oh, geez.
He tells a story about Chummers talking shit about my gloves. I'm like, bro, you should show people a picture of them terrible taekwondo gloves.
Oh, yeah. Those are awesome.
So we're always busting each other's balls, but for sure, Fiveville would have been a shit show without him, and I couldn't ever thank him enough. So instead, I just paid him.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
October, it looks like 26. We're still looking at there's a couple venues, A lot of when it comes to fights, it's about venues. We're trying to get a place out in Denham because they're a really nice place. But if not, we may need to do Lamar Dixon. We may need to go to
where
St. Charles.
Submission Hunter was.
Yeah.
That was a nice place.
The St. Charles has a place we can do it. And so it just depends on venue. That's really the big factor. Hyman's tough. Hyman's really expensive, and it's a great show. It's smooth, but it's really expensive. So for us to really do a show there, we can't do a show there and it even be worth us doing it because it's about 2 or 3 months of my time, but it's not even worth doing if we can't get at least 1,000 people in the door to just pay. I think just to Hyman, it was close to 19,000.
Oh,
just what we owed Hyman.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes people don't understand that, and like if the show would have done bad, I still owe the money.
Yeah.
Coming on. So it's scary at Hyman. Sponsors don't know how much we appreciate them, but because without those sponsorship dollars, we couldn't buy the posters and we couldn't get everything ready to hope to Jesus the show works. So December 15th should be great, and we're gonna go ahead and do Hyman again. And the reason is, I could probably do a rec center. I could probably do the Como Rec Center or another one of these rec centers, and it'd be less stress, and it'd be less fear, and it'd be less anxiety. But I think you guys deserve better than that. And there's not a lot of venues in Lafayette, so that's the one where it's close, people are comfortable with it, the lighting's good, there's restaurants around. It's really expensive, but we're gonna suck it up.
No more Blackham ever?
Blackham has stopped allowing combat sports in the building.
Oh gosh.
But it's great. They allow rodeos there.
Well, we had a promoter in town that kind of ruined the reputation of everyone.
Right.
And really ran roughshod through all the venues. I don't want to say his name, but he really ran roughshod through all the venues and just built a bad reputation to where Blackham stopped doing it. It was pretty tough for us to even talk the rec centers into it. But Josh and I talked them into it if we ever need to. And, maybe one day we'll do like a Fightville may get kind of big.
Yeah.
And, at Gladiators, we got 30 or 40 guys on our roster. That's a lot of dudes.
That's a lot of fighters,
And so I can't get everybody on that card.
Right.
But what I could do is a little bit smaller show, amateur only, at a rec center, and put 20 fights on there.
Right.
And make it super cheap, and just do a couple posters and not have to invest a bunch of money into it. And we throw a show and, let Aaron and I give guys who have no fights or one fight the opportunity to compete. And a bigger show for guys like you. So those are plans we have down the road. We're also expanding to possibly Alexandria and Shreveport. So
right.
We'll see.
Takeover continues.
Lake Charles. We'll see what happens.
Takeover continues.
If anybody has any questions for me, you're welcome. I'll be on here for about 2 or 3 more minutes.
Yeah, questions. This is your chance.
We could talk to Coach Tim forever, man.
We really could.
We definitely got to have you back on.
Yeah.
Michael Zarang said, Cajun Dome is complaining they aren't making money. Bet they will work a deal.
Yeah,
the reason the Cajun
G's.
Dome is complaining they aren't making any money is because they make it so impossible for any show to pull off a show there that makes any money that no one wants to go do any shows there, concerts included. Who's ever in charge at the Cajun Dome, I don't know who it is, but you're absolutely failing in your job. And the Acadiana community is suffering because of it. Because we have a beautiful event center. The convention center is gorgeous. That place would be perfect. But they're going to charge me $30,000 or $40,000. Like, I can't afford it. I mean,
who can afford
we
that?
barely even made that. Like, we didn't make that for the show. Like, what do you want me to pay these fighters? You want me to pay them in t-shirts? What do you want me to do? And so the Cajun Dome makes it so impossible that it's not realistic, even in the convention center. So what needs to happen is their management there needs to fire whoever's in charge and get somebody who wants to start bringing business back to Acadiana. Because if the people at Cajun Dome really wanted to work, I feel like they don't want to work. But if they really wanted to work, they could back off some of that stuff, do a lot more shows, build the reputation, and bring a ton more entertainment. And everybody's happy.
Everybody wants to go there.
But that's going to require them to work. They'd rather just complain. We see that a lot in our society. They're complaining they're not making any money. Why don't you shut up and go to work?
Dude, we've got some real good tidbits on here. We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to. So maybe the next one, maybe the next podcast we do with Coach Tim will be Jeff Suley said, barnyard fights. Find a big ass barn, set up a cage. Everybody sits on bales of hay.
Hey, they got a couple in Karen Crow.
That could be. Wait, remember those fights? Gravity. Remember Gravity? Gravity did that. That was
in the chicken fight.
In the chicken. Yeah, I was about to say he used to fight chickens.
That made me extremely nervous.
That was a rough time. I remember. Yeah. That was actually George Rodriguez.
One little piece of tidbit is my grandfather is the one that opened the chicken fighting place.
No.
Yeah.
They have a long
list of people on one side of the law.
Said, put me on that car.
Yeah.
Man, you're way too pretty to fight. You can't fight. Way too pretty.
No.
Way
she
too
throw
pretty.
them hands though.
But she will though, dude. I've been teaching Captain Kickboxing, worst idea I ever had. Dude, she throws at me.
My wife comes too. She loves
throws at me. And then I check her kick and she gets jacked. She's like, you checked my kick. I was like, I'm sorry. And then, shin's bruised.
Sorry was the mistake.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in so much. And, we'll have Coach Tim back on.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. If you guys ever have any questions, I'm easy to find. I'm either at Gladiators or one of my I Love Kickboxings or with my kids trying to drown them at Reds. I want to thank one of my sponsors, Turp House, turphouse.com. If you use the code CrazyTim, you get 20% off. I probably take twice as much CBD oil a day because my knees, from years of wrestling and jiu-jitsu, it just hurt. But the guy at Turp House heard I was having knee problems probably 2 or 3 months ago. The only thing I changed was I started taking their CBD dropper oil, and it changed my life. My knee hasn't popped out of socket once, and it used to do it like every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And now it hasn't happened in 3 months. Best stuff I ever took. So, turphouse.com.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk next time you come on about that stuff because it's like kind of like there's a lot of people that I think have mixed opinions about it. Obviously, it doesn't come up.
There's a lot of mixed education. There's a lot of mixed education. When you say CBD, people think that means
marijuana.
You're smoking weed at church or something.
Yeah.
That ain't got nothing to do with it. But CBD oil. I really was a little bit. I was like, man, what's this? This is ridiculous. This doesn't gonna make a difference. But it's made a huge difference.
And it's super potent. It's like little drops.
I just do 15 drops on my tongue in the morning.
It
says that's what you're supposed. It says for an athlete, 15 drops a day.
Oh, okay.
So that's how many I do 16 times a day. But man, my knees have never felt better, dude. I feel great. And for pain and inflammation, it's amazing.
Right.
Well, let's
talk
do
about that.
We'll talk about it next time. It'll be fun. All right, guys. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for everybody who, again, came out to the fights and tuned in on the podcast. There's a wealth of knowledge to be had here with Coach Tim and Coach Tyler and myself. So we appreciate you guys. 2 weeks, we'll probably go back to. I was supposed to talk about.
We have a lot. We had a lot to
supposed to talk about the brain function in your brain that trigger hunger today.
And
I was really glad we had you on there.
Satiation.
So just the differences between what your body starts to crave after you give it junk food over time, it becomes addicted to it. Basically,
it's an awesome topic.
It's a really good topic. So we'll talk about that next time. But
I want to bring up LSU football this weekend, fantasy, just a bunch of different stuff, man.
It's fantasy draft tomorrow night.
Absolutely, throwing it down in the man cave.
All right.
But big weekend.
We'll see. Happy Labor Day,
you guys.
What sport
Labor
does
Day.
LSU play? What sport is it?
Oh man, I'm in the wrong house right here. Man. I'm in the wrong house.
I don't know what y'all talking about. Is hockey season starting?
All right, guys. Coach T and Damon V podcast episode 3. Peace.
Out. And mine too, Coach T.